So I have an awesome conversation with Hayley Lewis of KCSN and Bleacher Report about this upcoming matchup against the Bucs, the greatness of the Chiefs coaching staff, as well as thoughts on their moves heading into the trade deadline and if another could be made. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? What's up, everybody? I'm here with a special guest that has her own Wikipedia page, just so you know. That's pretty freaking cool. Hayley Lewis, who is doing a bunch of stuff. You're doing stuff with KCSN, Bleacher Report. You're kind of all over. You're hosting like Chiefs tailgates. You're everywhere. And I was like, man, not only does Hayley know ball, but you're a creator in the space that I was like, we should link, talk Chiefs sometime. And here we are, leading up to the Monday Night Football game, Chiefs, Bucs. Before we dive into that, Hayley, how are you doing?
Well, what you don't know, Cole, is that I actually went and created my own Wikipedia page just 24 hours ago before you went and found it. So that was probably me and my mom, putting in some cute little nuggets about me. But
you need to edit it.
You know?
It's out. I think it's out of date though, so you need to edit it.
Oh man. Okay, I need to go back in there, obviously. But yeah, it's a good time. It's a good week. I'm happy that we can have Sunday and actually just enjoy football without having to report and get ready for Monday Night Football. But man, another primetime matchup. They keep them rolling, so they keep us busy.
Yeah, I don't know if the Chiefs have the most primetime matchups this year. I think they did last year. Either way, they're in the spotlight quite a bit. Second Monday Night Football game of the year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mondays are weird because just what you said, I get to watch Red Zone all Sunday, and it's fun. So I really enjoy that. How are you feeling about the team heading into the Week 8 matchup? The Bucs are 4-4. I think they've lost 3 of their last 4. They're down Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Baker Mayfield has thrown 7 INTs in the last 3 games. But they are not a team that you can sleep on either. They are heading into hostile territory, Arrowhead Stadium. Did you know it's also going to pour? It's supposed to like thunderstorm and pour all day. I didn't even know that until a little bit ago. So it's going to be a wild game. What are your thoughts on the team and how things are looking heading in?
The Chiefs, I feel like they always play so well when it's a miserable Missouri kind of weather situation, right? Like opening night, for instance, playing against the Ravens, we were in a torrential downpour just seconds after burning up in the sweltering heat, being like 100 degrees before they went into that one. But I'm excited. You mentioned it. Baker Mayfield coming into this one had some little struggles here and there, but even, Steve Spagnuolo was talking about this today. He plays so well in that system. This is definitely not a team that you can sleep on. They're going to give the Chiefs their best shot like every other team in the NFL does. But this is a team that's been able to pound the rock, find ways to run the ball. They're disruptive. And I think that the Chiefs are going to have a closer game than a lot of fans would like to lean toward. But I think it's still going to be a good one. I do think the Chiefs are the better team, and usually the better team does win. However, I think we're going to see a really good showing out of the Bucs. Not the Tom Brady Bucs, but a good showing.
Yeah, I'm actually a Baker Mayfield fan. Like, after what the Browns did to him, I was always rooting for him to catch on somewhere. It was a really cool story how he caught on with the Bucs post-Brady era, and I'm rooting for the guy. Not on Monday, but like I like Baker. I'm glad he's really got a great second chance, and he's playing pretty good ball, all things considered. Yeah, I think the Chiefs at this point in time, we're recording around 1 p.m. on Friday. They're like 8.5-point favorites. But I just laugh every time because I'm like, yeah, but we know it's going to be a 1-score game, like maybe even a 3-point game down to the wire. It's an interesting thing because the Chiefs defense is going to be one of the best defenses the Bucs have faced, but the Bucs offense, like they're top 4 in most categories. Number 1 team at converting on third downs. They're top 3 in the red zone. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but they're great at moving the ball. And then you mentioned their run game. Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, they're a very unique 1-2 punch, both in the pass game and in the run game. They use them both everywhere. Sometimes they're both out on the field at the same time. Cade Otton, their tight end, has kind of caught fire. He's coming off of back-to-back 80-plus yard games, catching an average of 8.5 passes a game since Evans and Godwin have gone down. And the Chiefs' defense has given up a lot of yards to tight ends this season. How are you feeling about the Chiefs' defense and their ability to maybe contain? You said it's going to be a close game, but their ability to contain the Bucs and their pretty decent offense, even sans Godwin and Evans.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot of great things. I think that Cade is going to be a really big part of the Bucks offense, and I think he's going to be disruptive. Kansas City definitely has to bring out their A game. You mentioned that the Chiefs have one of the best defenses in the league. They bring in the addition of Josh Uche to hopefully give a little more pressure to that quarterback, right? Bringing that in on the edge. And hopefully that does disrupt his game a little bit, kind of get him off of his timing. We can see Mayfield struggle with those issues when he gets off of his timing or when he has those issues coming out of the pocket. So maybe that's something they can disrupt. But I think that it's going to be a big game for Otton as well as Irving. You know, they've had that success with the run game. Kansas City going up against them, I think that I don't ever want to bet against Kansas City because every single time I do, I eat my words. But this is definitely going to be, I think, maybe one of their biggest challenges outside of the Ravens. This offense will be a very big challenge for the type of mismatch that they're going to create. Now, I think that Kansas City's offense, how they have been struggling in the red zone and having those penalties, the left tackle issues, and maybe we can get into that a little bit here.
Yeah.
I think that the offense is going to have to capitalize on those opportunities more so than putting the pressure on the defense, if that makes sense. So I think when the offense is on the field, Patrick Mahomes has to capitalize instead of settling for those, let's bank on Harrison Butker situations. Let's get 6 and keep the score rolling, because if you don't take the opportunities that the defense continues to give you, then this game is going to come down to a 3-point game. And of course, no Chiefs fan is not used to that, but my God, could we get through a game without maybe having to pop a Xanax? That would be nice. Just saying.
Yeah, it's been the past couple games have been a little less stressful. I mean, the Raiders were kind of creeping back up there. Some good news here about the Chiefs offense in October. They're averaging in 3 games, 27 points per game. There was like this whole thing about Mahomes hasn't thrown a passing TD in October through 2 games. They had a bye week, but they scored 5 on the ground. Over the past 2 weeks, they're 7 for 9 in the red zone, scoring touchdowns. That's absolutely fantastic. And I think you're right. I think the Chiefs offense is really, they might have to maybe carry the load a little bit more than we're used to seeing them do so this year. Just because if you look at mismatches in this game, it's definitely Chiefs offense versus Bucks defense. The Chiefs offense, they're like kind of middle of the pack in a lot of things, but they are, if you're just looking past couple weeks, really good in the red zone. They are still like top 3, top 4 in converting on third down. And then the Bucks defense, I mean, they are not great. They are 28th in points allowed per game. They're allowing a lot of passing yards per game, a lot of rushing yards per game. So I do agree. I think the Chiefs offense is going to have to kind of put up a decent amount of points. How are you feeling about the offense with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins and maybe how his role could look heading into his second game as a Kansas City Chief?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that they said when they signed Hopkins was look out for him in the red zone, look out for him on third down. And then you see against the Raiders last week, the Chiefs had one of their best third down conversion games where they were able to continue to keep the chains moving, something that we haven't seen as much of them in the first couple of weeks of the season, right? So I think Hopkins made an immediate impact. Also, you see Travis Kelce have his best game when DeAndre Hopkins comes in. So Travis Kelce scores, and it's so weird to say this, first touchdown of the season, and we're already 8 weeks into the season. It's uncharacteristic like for him, but you have to also factor in the different injuries that they've had, the different things that's been going on with the offense, and also just the fact that he is getting a little bit older, but when he doesn't have a good game, someone else has a great game. So to see DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce begin to start playing off of each other was awesome, because he's a big guy. You can't get him one-on-one, and if you do get him one-on-one and you're doubling down on Travis Kelce, it's going to be the opposite on the next play. So one of those future Hall of Famer, either tight end or wide receiver, is going to be with that one-on-one matchup, no matter what, if they're both in. So that's really exciting. I love what he's been able to do to open him up. And just, again, the ability to have that veteran presence. Also have that veteran presence along with a guy like Xavier Worthy, who's getting to learn from him. And that was something that they talked about in the press conferences today, is just teaching a young wideout those different things. So exciting to see. I think we're only going to see better from him. And I always love how the Chiefs get a player who's maybe been banged up just a little bit, and they start playing with Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and all of a sudden it just starts rolling. So I think it's only going to get better with DeAndre Hopkins as he learns more and just gets more of that chemistry and timing down with Mahomes.
Yeah, and Andy Reid said, I think in his presser on Thursday, my days are weird because Monday Night Football shifts everything around. But Andy Reid said that DeAndre Hopkins, he's been soaking it all up, coming in early, staying late, and he basically anticipates his workload, targets, and just overall production to go up even just in his second game. And then Patrick Mahomes spoke too recently about this and basically said when you've got a guy that can kind of eat in the middle of the field, it takes pressure off of others in the middle of the field, i.e. Travis Kelce, which in turn can open up the deep passing game. I don't know if we'll see the deep passing game come on Monday Night Football in a game if it's for sure like torrential downpour. But, you know, the Chiefs are, I think that's probably the most surprising thing to me. And like, I get it a little bit. You have Hollywood Brown out for the season. You have Rice out for the season, even though Hollywood hopefully can return for the playoffs. But you've constantly had to adapt. Pacheco out. You bring in Hunt. They're almost a run-heavy team for the first time in the Mahomes era. So you're constantly adapting. But all offseason, OTAs, training camp, we see deep ball, deep ball, deep ball, deep ball. You then get to the NFL season, and the Chiefs are last in deep shots down the field. What are your thoughts on that and maybe biggest offensive surprises for you through the first 7-8 weeks of the season?
Yeah, that was the theme all training camp long was it seemed like every single time a new reporter came into the training tent or the tent at training camp, they were asking, are we going to see more of the deep ball this season? Is there going to be more of a deep threat this season? And it was almost like the coaches and Mahomes would kind of just be like, well, I mean, we hope so. We hope so. It just depends on what the defenses are giving us. We got to get to the season and get things rolling. So that was really the theme throughout all of the late summer. And going into the first couple of games, we thought, okay, Xavier Worthy's going to stretch the field, right? This is a guy who's going to bring back that deep ball, the speed that they got from Tyreek Hill. And then you have also Rashee Rice going into his second season, hitting his stride. And then, of course, he gets injured. And then it was so disappointing to see Hollywood Brown get hurt on the first catch of the first throw of the first drive of the first preseason game and not even be able to see the potential of that. So what they had to do was completely shift gears. And I think how they have shifted gears so many times through so many different little avenues of adversity that they've hit with the injuries is what surprised me the most is that Kansas City has been able to capitalize and do well. It's like they're an onion. You just keep peeling back layers and they got another layer there. And it's like Brett Veach has perfectly made this roster to where it's not only next man up, it's my next man up is better than your best guy out there. And that's the wild thing about how he's built this roster. And that's a credit to Andy Reid and Brett Veach, Mark Donovan in the front office, because they've been able to go out and find players and then bring back players who have familiarity in this offense and who have continued to just pick up their stride. I don't think we've seen that version of Kareem Hunt since he was 26. You know, it's crazy to see that he's out there rocking like he never missed a beat. And then you bring in other guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, although he's dealing with a little injury right now. All of a sudden, Juju's back to the old Juju. He's back to TikTok Juju. You know, it's wild to see what Kansas City does. It's like they light a fire in the guys that they bring, and they show them, hey, you have a chance to win a ring. And all of a sudden, we get this new little burst of energy out of people. So I think that's the biggest shock for me. Not a shock, but maybe surprise that they had to go through all that, and they're undefeated. It's wild.
Yeah, and I think that screams coaching to me. You got the Hunts, and then how well they've kind of crafted everything. You bring Andy Reid in back in 2013, and then he's slowly helped build this culture. You have the best DC in the game. Even just looking at some of the assistant coaches, positional coaches, you've got a really good D-line coach in Joe Cullen. You've got a really good cornerback, secondary coach in Dave Merritt, defensive backs coach rather. Like you've got these great pieces on defense, and then I think you were specifically talking offense there, and when I'm talking about coaching, like Juju was released from the Patriots, like nobody wanted him, but you could then bring him in, you could scheme him up. I just feel like what you said there, the coaching staff of the Kansas City Chiefs is so good at taking a look at the players they have. They look at their strengths and they say, okay, well here's their best strengths, here's their best traits and how we can use them. Let's literally just utilize that in the scheme. They don't do it in a way that completely reimagines or re-identifies the Chiefs offense, but they're just so good at taking these players, plugging them in a way to just really exploit that to where what you said, our next man up is quite possibly better than the guys that the opposing team already has out there, but some of them are almost like castaways, and that's no disrespect. It's like I think they're coming from organizations that they just don't know how to best utilize the strengths and skill sets. Meanwhile, the Chiefs bring these guys in, and they know exactly how to do it. Kareem Hunt is so interesting to me. I saw a graph recently. He basically never has explosive plays, like ever. He's averaging that 3 to 6 yards a carry, but he also never basically has a run for a loss. So
yeah,
that's like the Chiefs offense. They're not taking deep shots. You're lacking explosive plays, quote unquote, but Mahomes spoke in his presser recently and said, hey, all we want to do at the end of the day is if we are up is trust that the defense will be able to shut the opponents down, and just with the main focus on offense being move the chains. And that's what you're seeing. You're not seeing these deep shots. You're not seeing explosions, fireworks, but you are seeing them move the chains, have one of the best success rates in the entire NFL from an offensive standpoint, and they're getting the job done more times than not. Yeah. Now, this Monday, what are you thinking about in regards to score prediction? They're 8.5-point favorites. Have you made a decision yet on score for Chiefs Bucks?
I have not yet, because every time I do this, I put a foot in my mouth. And I mean, I'll do it gladly, like might as well. But I always try to guess on what's going to happen. And the only thing that I've ever been able to pinpoint is the fact that whatever I guess is going to happen, the Chiefs are going to do the exact opposite. Like, it's just always you can't predict what's going to happen. So I think going into this one, I would probably put it a 1-touchdown game. Let's give that the buffer. I said 3-point advantage just a few minutes ago, but I'm going to go with a 1-touchdown game. I'm going to give Chiefs the better of that. So they're going to roll into this, undefeated train that they keep going, which also kind of makes me nervous. If I can be honest and admit the undefeatedness keep going, it does make me nervous. Not saying that I want them to lose, but it makes me nervous. So I say Kansas City. Let's give KC, 30. Oh, no, I don't think they'll get that. 28. Let's give Kansas City 28. And then we'll deduct 7 off, and we will give the lonely Bucks. Why can't I do math right now?
21.
28 minus 7, 21. What's wrong with me? Was that not in my Wikipedia? She did not graduate math class. But anyway, so yeah. I think it's definitely going to be a close game. But I do want to bring up the point. You mentioned that whole little rant I went on, didn't even mention the defense. Isn't that wild? Like, that I didn't even mention the defense and how well the defense is doing. And we can talk that long about a so-so average offense in Mahomes' era, and then the defense does what they do. I mean, we could be here for 30 minutes talking about how good the Chiefs have structured what they got going on. But anyways, what is your score prediction? You can do math better.
I actually laugh at how often I use a calculator. I hit Command Spacebar on my MacBook Pro like every day, multiple times a day, just to double check, because I'm like, I feel like this is right, but I don't trust myself. Yeah.
Can you tip? I can't tip. I have to do the calculator every single time I tip.
I gotta calculate on my phone. Yeah. It is what it is. I'm not here to do math. I'm here to try to talk Chiefs, and it does involve math actually with analytics, but calculator is my best friend. With that being said, earlier I said something along the lines of Chiefs 30, Bucks 20, but I'm a little worried about the rain now that like they're talking about it potentially just being a torrential downpour. Like,
how bad?
The only reason I said that too, 30 to 20, it's probably going to be closer than that. But I just feel like Andy Reid and Mahomes in history have done a pretty freaking good job against NFC teams. I don't have their record like handy, but they've won almost every single game, almost by quite a bit at times against NFC opponents. For what reason that is, I don't know. But when you look at the Bucks, they do need the win bad. They are 1-3 in their last 4-4, but you're coming into Arrowhead. The Chiefs are rocking. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a problem. The Buccaneers, their defense is one of the worst in the entire NFL, giving up yards to tight ends. It's going to be a Kelsey game. I just think when you combine that with Kareem Hunt and company being able to just nickel and dime their way down the field, drain clock, then you have the Chiefs defense with Spags and company. You've got Uche being added into the mix. I think he will play Monday. How often? I don't know, but he has a win percentage almost as great as Chris Jones. You throw that in there. Dana could maybe be coming back. We'll see.
Mhm.
But you combine all that. I just don't know how the Chiefs lose this game. Maybe that's the homer in me as a lifelong Chiefs fan. And that's why I had a 10-point game, even though it'll probably be like a 1, 2, 3-point game down to the wire. With the rain, maybe we knock it back. 24-17. Chiefs get the W if it's going to be pouring this whole entire 4 quarters.
Yeah, that's not going to be fun. Rain games are not fun. Snow games are fun. Rain games are not fun. It's definitely just one of those things where you're just like, okay, if it gets, and it's starting to get colder outside too. So if it's cold rain game, I'm not always a happy camper. But if the Chiefs win, I'll be a happy camper. And I feel like they're going to. I think that this is one where, again, Kansas City is just the better team all around. I think that the Bucs are going to give them a great show. I think that we're going to all be anxious towards the end of the fourth quarter. But I still think Kansas City is going to come out on top on this one.
Here's a question for you. The next day, after Monday Night Football is a trade deadline, the Chiefs have already made 2 trades. They went and got D-Hop. We talked about that. They went and got Uche. And I always remember his last name because it rhymes with Boucher, Bobby Boucher from The Waterboy. Shout-outs to Adam Sandler. But they went and got Uche. They got D-Hop. They probably could use a left tackle. They probably could use a cornerback. I don't know how realistic trading, especially for a left tackle, is. That's probably not happening. But what are your thoughts on the trade deadline? Do you think the Chiefs make another move, especially when you consider the fact that all they gave up for D-Hop was a 5th, that could maybe be a 4th, and then for Uche, it was a 2026 6th-round pick. So they've got picks if they want to make a move before the end of Tuesday.
Kansas City did good. I mean, they did really good with their money, and that's why they always call Brett Veach the money magician, because he can do these things. And I know that a lot of people, they say, excuse me, just to throw out the salary cap and don't even look at it because, Veach is going to find a way to finesse what he needs to finesse. I think they have just a slightly over $250,000 left in salary cap space if you factor in Uche as well as DeAndre Hopkins. Now, that's not enough money to really do much with, but if you could find a low base salary, you could potentially go out and get a cornerback who would be in that kind of perfect win-win situation for Kansas City where they can get him on a good deal, and also a team would be willing to trade him to the Chiefs. You mentioned it, left tackle, most likely unrealistic. That's going to be a high dollar, position, and I don't really know the amount of available left tackles out there. I was kind of going through a list this past week, and there's really not anyone. So if you're looking for people to bring in a cheap corner, I think they've been talking about the Saints, Lattimore a little bit, and then they've also been talking about Tre'Davious White with the Rams. Those are the 2 names that I've heard tossed around a lot. White was just allowed 3 days ago. His agent was allowed to go out and start seeking a trade. He's been a healthy scratch, I think, for 3 games in a row. A guy who tore his ACL, he also tore his Achilles. He's been with the Bills. He's a veteran presence. That's what you really want to focus on, the fact that he's a veteran presence who could come in here and help these guys. But, I think the Chiefs also do have a really good amount of talent. They have a really good secondary. You got a guy like Joshua Williams, who's also stepping up, Shamari Connor. I know Najee Johnson was dealing with the concussion, but to my knowledge, he's practicing today as well. So it looks like he's going to be out of concussion protocol in time. But with the rotation of those younger guys in the secondary, they've all come up through Steve Spagnuolo across from Trent McDuffie. You couldn't have got a better guy to replace L'Jarius Sneed. I think Kansas City has enough. Do I see them doing something? Just because, if they had $1 left in their cap space, I could see them doing something because it's Brett Veach. So I would stay on your, on your accounts this weekend to make sure you got all your notifications. But does it necessarily need to happen, Cole? I don't know.
They could make a little bit of a restructure of somebody, whether it's Tooney, Mahomes. Like there's a maybe not Mahomes again, but there's a couple small moves they could do if they really need to. But yeah, like Lattimore, I love that. He would be freaking awesome. Cheap this year, but if you look at his contract for the next 2 years, no, it's like $16 million base salary for the next 2. I just, at this point in time, like looking around, I'm like, unless you're going to bring in a free agent that would cost 0 draft capital and maybe be like vet min guy you're picking up Kareem Hunt, who was on the couch, right? What about somebody available like Xavier Howard? Please no, off-field issues. We don't want any more of that, even though he would be great if he didn't have the issues. There's Marcus Peters. There's like some random people. I don't know if it makes sense, only because when you have the guys you mentioned, you've got Najee, you've got Josh Williams. He's struggled up and down, but Dave Merritt said today that the more reps Joshua Williams gets, the better he gets, and he trusts him out there for sure. But then you have Keith Taylor and Chris Roland Wallace on there as well. And I feel like at this point in time, if you're going to bring in a guy, it's just maybe going to be to have added depth before the playoffs. Like, I don't know what else you're bringing in a guy for at this point in time. But injuries are, they happen. I wish Jalen Watson wasn't out for the season. He was playing really well. But it is what it is. And the Chiefs, over pretty much anybody else in the NFL, are the best at not only rolling with the punches, but adapting and getting the best out of the guys that they already have on the roster.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think what Kansas City has in-house is good enough. Hopefully they don't have any more injuries at that position group, and they should be fine through the remainder of the season. So, but again, I say that, and then whatever I say is going to be exactly the opposite. So you just wait to see on Tuesday. It's a big day. It's election day and the trade deadline, and I hope that they do something with the trade so I'm distracted from all the noise and I can have something else to just focus on that day.
My favorite thing about Tuesday is that Wednesday will be here, and that means no more political ads. Like, I cannot wait. I've had some people comment on my videos. They said, hey, you've got such and such ads for this candidate. I'm like, bro, I don't control YouTube's ads.
Yeah,
so please.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
I was like, don't go after me. Well, hey, Hayley, thanks so much for your time. I know that Twitter is a good place for people to stay connected with you. You're always reporting on Chiefs stuff. I know you have Instagram, I believe, same handle, yeah?
Yeah. I think it's just _sports or some, it's the same stuff at the beginning, just type it all in, you'll find it.
I'll put a screenshot over the top. And then also, I feel like we should plug your show on KCSN. You've got a 4 or 5 day a week show recapping some of the best or biggest Chiefs news out there. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Sub to KCSN. They're doing great work. I've had several of at least a couple of the lab guys on talking draft stuff because that is not my forte. So every time it's draft season, I'm like, hey, you guys wanna come talk some draft ball? Because that is not me.
Oh yeah, they'll definitely keep you covered.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, I just appreciate you guys, KCSN as a whole. But then Hayley, thanks so much. I feel like you're busy. You got lots going on, but the fact that you took some time out of your schedule to hop on the HBTC channel to talk some Chiefs, talk some Bucks, trades, and I feel like ultimately we're just living it up as Chiefs fans. It's a really good time to be here, be alive. Chiefs are chasing a three-peat. They've been to, 4? Has it been 4 Super Bowls in the last 5? Like, it's been insane. I always forget because I have PTSD from 55. So I don't even think about that one anymore. But yeah, it's a great time to be a fan. And Hayley, you're awesome. Keep rocking, and appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Thanks again. And anytime you want to talk about Chiefs, let's do it. Because like you said, this is a time to be alive. This is a time to be a Chiefs fan. So a lot of exciting things happening.
How about those Chiefs?